You just lost money. Maybe a lot of it. Maybe it was a bad investment, a failed business, a market crash, or something you thought was safe that turned out to be a trap. And now you're sitting there wondering if you'll ever recover. Here's what nobody tells you. How you handle the next 72 hours will determine whether this loss destroys you or becomes the turning point that changes everything. So let me ask you this. Are you making the financial loss worse by doing what most people do? Are you about to repeat the same pattern that keeps broke people broke? And what if I told you that some of the wealthiest people alive today once lost everything, but they knew something you don't? Let's get one thing straight right now. Financial loss doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't care if you're a good person, if you worked hard, or if you deserved better. The money is gone. That's the reality. But here's the part that actually matters. What you do next is the only thing that will decide if you stay down or if you build something bigger than what you lost. And most people get this completely wrong. The first mistake people make after losing money is they freeze. They do nothing. They sit in shock, replaying what happened over and over, blaming themselves, blaming others, scrolling through their bank account like it's going to magically change. This is the danger zone. Because while you're frozen, the world keeps moving. Bills keep coming. Opportunities keep passing. And the longer you stay stuck, the harder it becomes to get back up. Here's what you need to understand. Your brain is wired to protect you from pain. So when you lose money, your mind goes into survival mode. It wants to avoid anything that reminds you of that loss. It tells you to play it safe, to stop taking risks, to never trust again. And that's exactly how people stay poor. Because playing it safe after a loss doesn't protect you. It traps you. Think about it like this. If you get into a car accident, what's the worst thing you can do? Never drive again. Because now you've let one bad experience control your entire life. The same thing happens with money. One bad investment, and people swear off investing forever. One failed business, and they never try again. One betrayal, and they stop trusting anyone with their money. And that's how you guarantee you'll never build wealth. Now here's where it gets interesting. The people who recover from financial loss the fastest all do one specific thing within the first week. They don't ignore it. They don't pretend it didn't happen. They face it head on and ask themselves one brutal question. What did I actually lose? Not what it feels like you lost. Not the story you're telling yourself. But the actual number. The real damage. Because here's the truth. Most people inflate their losses in their minds. They add shame to it. They add regret. They add all the things they could have done with that money. And suddenly a $10,000 loss feels like a $100,000 loss. Your emotions are multiplying the pain. And when the pain feels unbearable, you make even worse decisions. So write it down. The exact amount. The exact situation. No drama. No emotion. Just facts. Because once you see the real number, something shifts. It becomes a problem you can solve instead of a disaster you're drowning in. And that shift in perspective is everything. Now let's talk about the second mistake. Chasing the loss. This is where people destroy themselves. They just lost money, so they panic and try to make it back as fast as possible. They jump into another risky investment. They gamble. They make desperate moves. And almost every single time, they lose even more. This is called loss aversion bias. Your brain hates losing more than it loves winning. So it tricks you into thinking you need to win it back immediately. But fast money after a loss almost never works. You know why? Because you're not thinking clearly. You're emotional. You're desperate. And desperate people make terrible financial decisions. Here's what the smart people do instead. They stop. They breathe. They accept the loss as a sunk cost. That money is gone. It's not coming back the way you lost it. And once you accept that, you can start thinking about the future instead of trying to rewrite the past. Because the only way forward is forward, not backward. Let me give you a real example. There's a guy who lost nearly everything in the 2008 financial crisis. His investments tanked. His business folded. He was in debt. And his first instinct was to take what little he had left and put it into a high-risk deal that promised quick returns. He was about to do it. But then he stopped and asked himself one question. Am I making this decision because it's smart or because I'm scared? And he realized it was fear. So instead, he took that money and put it into something boring. Something safe. Something that would slowly rebuild his foundation. And within 5 years, he was wealthier than before the crash. Not because he made one big move, but because he didn't make the desperate one. That's the lesson. After a financial loss, your first job is not to make money back. It's to stabilize, to stop the bleeding, to protect what's left. Because if you lose everything trying to recover, you have nothing to build with. Now here's the part that separates people who bounce back from people who don't. Emotional regulation. You have to get control of how you feel about money. Because right now, if you've lost money, you're probably feeling shame, guilt, anger, maybe even worthlessness. And those feelings are dangerous because they make you act in ways that keep you stuck. Shame makes you hide. You stop talking about money. You avoid people who might ask questions. You isolate yourself. And isolation kills progress because you cut yourself off from help, from ideas, from opportunities. Guilt makes you punish yourself. You stop spending on things you need. You deprive yourself as some kind of penance. And that keeps you in survival mode instead of growth mode. Anger makes you reckless. You want revenge on the market, on the person who wronged you, on yourself. And reckless decisions lead to more losses. So here's what you do. You separate your identity from your bank account. You are not your net worth. You are not your mistakes. You are a person who lost money. That's it. Not a failure. Not an idiot. Not hopeless. Just someone who had a setback. And setbacks are temporary if you treat them that way. Let me tell you something that might sting a little. Most people never recover from financial loss because they don't want to admit they need to change. They want to go back to doing what they were doing before and hope for a different result. But if what you were doing led to a loss, why would you keep doing it? This is your reset moment. This is where you audit everything. How you think about money, how you spend it, how you invest it, who you take advice from, what risks you take, what you ignore. Because somewhere in your system, there was a flaw. Maybe it was impatience. Maybe it was greed. Maybe it was ignorance. Maybe it was trusting the wrong person. But something went wrong. And if you don't identify it, you'll repeat it. Here's a framework that works. Ask yourself 3 questions. What did I ignore that I should have paid attention to? What did I assume was true that wasn't? What would I do differently if I could go back? Those answers will show you the pattern. And once you see the pattern, you can break it. Now let's talk about rebuilding. Because that's what you really want to know. How do I actually come back from this? And the answer is simpler than you think, but harder than you want it to be. You rebuild slowly, strategically, with discipline. Step 1. Earn again. Whether that's a job, a side hustle, freelancing, selling something, whatever. You need cash flow, not to get rich, just to stabilize. Because you can't build wealth without income. And right now, income is your foundation. Step 2. Save a small emergency fund. Not a huge one. Just enough to cover a crisis so you're not back at zero if something else goes wrong. This is your safety net. It gives you breathing room. Step 3. Invest in skills. This is the part people skip, and it's the biggest mistake. After a loss, your best investment is yourself. Learn something that makes you more valuable, more employable, more capable. Because skills compound. Money can be lost. Skills can't. Step 4. Start small with money again. Don't go big. Don't try to hit a home run. Build slowly. Invest conservatively. Prove to yourself that you can grow money without losing it. Build confidence. Build discipline. Build momentum. And here's the thing about momentum. It's everything. Because once you start moving forward again, even in small ways, your psychology shifts. You stop seeing yourself as a victim. You start seeing yourself as someone who's climbing back. And that identity change is what creates lasting recovery. Let me tell you what the wealthiest people know that most don't. They've all lost money. Every single one of them. The difference is they expected it. They knew loss was part of the game. So when it happened, they didn't spiral. They adjusted. They adapted. They kept going. Because they understood that wealth isn't built by never losing. It's built by losing less than you gain over time. And by not letting one loss define your entire financial future. So here's your new mindset. Financial loss is feedback. It's not failure. It's information. It's telling you something about your strategy, your knowledge, your discipline, or your judgment. And if you listen to it, if you learn from it, it becomes the most valuable lesson you'll ever get. Because now you know what not to do. And in a world where most people are broke because they keep making the same mistakes, knowing what not to do gives you a massive edge. One more thing before we wrap this up. Stop comparing your recovery to anyone else's. Someone else might bounce back in 6 months. It might take you 2 years. That's fine, because your journey is yours. Your loss is yours. Your comeback is yours. And the only timeline that matters is the one where you actually make it back. Not the one where you look good on social media or impress people who don't care about you anyway. Here's the bottom line. You lost money. That happened. It's real. It hurts. But it's not the end unless you decide it is. You have a choice right now. You can let this loss define you, trap you, keep you small and scared and stuck, or you can use it as fuel, as proof that you can survive hard things. As the story you tell later about the moment everything changed. The money you lost, it's gone. But your ability to earn, to grow, to build, to recover, that's still here. And as long as you have that, you have everything you need to come back stronger than before. So stop mourning what's gone and start building what's next. Because that's the only way forward. And forward is the only direction that matters.